Good morning, garden people. It's Saturday morning and the sun hasn't quite come out from behind the clouds. We had some rain overnight, thankfully. It's been very hot and humid and dry. We haven't had a lot of rain recently. So before the sun comes out and it gets too hot and humid for me to even think, I thought I'd give you a little tour of the kitchen herb garden slash butterfly garden that I have right next to the house. This garden sits right in front of our house, so actually just slightly to the side. It's a little corner that didn't have much going on, and I filled it with herbs and flowers, and it's just a beautiful spot. This garden sits on the eastern side of our house, so it faces east and south and sits right next to our driveway. So there's lots of heat that comes off the driveway. During the day, this is in full sun, and then as the evening progresses, the house starts to shade it. So later in the evening, after say 4 o'clock or so, this gets some late afternoon shade. I created this little corner garden as a way to have herbs near the house where if I was cooking and I needed a little bit of, basil or chives or something, I could just run right out rather than having to go to the main garden, which is a bit away from the house. Also, it was a place to just have some pretty flowers right next to the house and right next to the pathway we take in and out of the house every day, all day. So it's fun coming home and walking in and seeing this on the way in. When I leave the house in the morning, it's the first thing I see, and so it makes me happy. This garden is a blend of herbs that I use for cooking and for decoration, as well as various flowers that attract bees and butterflies. Lots of butterflies. So I'll start here with the path that leads to the deck that leads to the house. On either side of the pathway are two huge clumps of daylilies, and these are the most beautiful salmony pink daylilies that I've ever seen. I just love them. They are from the previous homeowner, and the story from her is that her brother had something to do with the development of these. I don't know the variety name. I know that they were very important to her, so important that after the sale of the house, she called up and asked if she could come and take a clump to move to their new house. And of course, I said yes. But I've got clumps of these all over the back garden as well, and I just love them. So they sort of form an entranceway into this garden. If you walk into the garden, first on your left is this little triangle piece of dirt, and in it it's just stuffed with all kinds of things. Right here is a big mass of oregano that I've just let grow and go to flower, and the bees do love it. Once this goes over, the flowers go away, I will cut it back hard, back down to the ground, and you'll actually be able to see the brick border that goes along the path here. But right now it's a little bit crazy. Along the deck, and sort of masked by the dill here, you'll see there's a big hedge of sage. It's just common sage, probably about 6 or 8 plants that I just keep going along the back, and they sort of disguise underneath the deck. And every spring I cut them back hard, so they don't usually flower unless I've missed a branch, but they send out all this new luxurious growth and just a pretty hedge, really. The rest of this bed is covered in dill. Now this dill I haven't sown probably for about 5 years. This is all self-sown dill. I just let it go to seed here and let it re-sow itself. You can see a little bit back here. And the main reason I do this is for the caterpillars, the swallowtail caterpillars in particular. And actually I just found one right here on the dill. I don't know if you can see it. I just let them run riot over the dill, and they do end up eating a lot of it. As you can see, all of these little stems have been chewed off by the caterpillars. But I'm okay with that because these little guys turn into beautiful butterflies. Beyond the dill, down here, I've got a couple of clumps of perennial marjoram here and here, and then tucked in a few nasturtiums and a purple sage for color. And then the rest of the bed is just a riot of zinnias, bachelor buttons, and cosmos that I grew from seed and just tucked in, again for the butterflies. And then you'll see this little plant here, which I think is probably my favorite annual ever, Verbena bonariensis. It self-sows everywhere throughout the herb garden, and I dig it out and move it around all over the perennial garden as well. Butterflies absolutely love these flowers, and so the rest of the summer we'll see butterflies all over these. Coming back to the beginning of the path, if we walk in and look to the right, here I'll come up to the center part here. This is the central part of the herb garden, and it's a bit of a chaotic mess right now. And I probably should have shown you this garden earlier in the season when you could actually see things. But it is a semicircle around a center island here with this obelisk, and it is just chock full of herbs and flowers. Around the edges, I have purple and regular basil. You can see the purple and regular, I believe this is Genovese basil. And that forms sort of a ring on the outside. And then tucked in between the two is this Thai basil, which I love. Not necessarily for cooking, although it certainly is usable for cooking, but because of the purple flowers and the purple stems against the green leaves. And I just think it blends so beautifully with the purple basil and the green basil, kind of ties the two together. I love the combination, and I grow it every year. I also grow some lemon basil, which has a beautiful lemony scent. And then in the middle of the garden, and I think I planted this in the wrong spot this year. I'm going to try to get in so you can see it, is a Himalayan blue basil tucked in the obelisk here. I probably should have put it out a little further where it's not going to get overwhelmed by the cosmos and the zinnias that I've planted around it, but live and learn. So in addition to the basil in the center part of this garden here, I also have a ton of the bachelor buttons, zinnias, and cosmos, again to attract the butterflies. And then you can see above that are all of the Verbena bonariensis that just in this last week have come into bloom. And it's a Japanese beetle. This year we've been overrun with Japanese beetles in certain parts of the garden, so it's been fairly frustrating. Anyway, so lots of zinnias and bachelor buttons and cosmos as we walk around the center portion of the garden, surrounded by the ring of basil. There have been a few of these self-sown cosmos from last year that I've just let come up, which is always fun. So that's the center part of the herb pollinator garden. And again, walking up the path almost to the deck, can see the path here that goes around the center part of the garden. And so we have this little, I guess, triangle-shaped piece up against the house. And this is filled with various types of mint. Now, I know a lot of people hesitate to plant mint directly into the ground because it can be a bit of a thug and run amok. But this patch here has been, it's been here probably 4 or 5 years. And I think because it does get a bit of shade in the afternoon, it doesn't seem to run quite as crazy as most mint usually does. And if it runs into, this watering area here, I just pull it out. So I have regular peppermint, spearmint, and then I think over here I've got some orange mint and then chocolate mint tucked in there. So the rest of this bed, let's see, we've got some nasturtiums, more verbena, maybe too many. I think I might have not thinned this out as much as I should have. Tucked along the edge here, I've got parsley, both curly and flat leaf parsley. And although I do use quite a bit in cooking, I always plant extra for the swallowtail caterpillars, which come in and chomp their fair share. Further along this side, I've got tucked away, and this is something new this year, lavage, which is perennial supposedly here and is supposed to grow quite large. So it's my first time growing it. We'll see what happens. And then in this little corner here are these morning glories that come back every year and seed themselves all over this corner. I rip them out mostly and leave a few every year just to climb up the drain pipe, and they've climbed up the hummingbird feeder pole, and they're pretty. So I leave them. Oop, speaking of hummingbirds, there's one right there. There she goes. All right, continuing around the outside of the herb garden, I've got some lemon verbena right here, which you can use to make tea, and it just smells amazing. And then I've got lemon balm, which also self-sows around, and every year I have to rip out seedlings, which is fine. Happy to do it. The pollinators really like the flowers, and so apparently do the Japanese beetles. Have to get in there and take care of those guys. I've got a bit more parsley tucked in here, and then as we come around next to the lemon balm, I've got lemongrass. And then, let's see. Yeah, more. I've got some salvia here. I bought some salvia this year. I did not start these from seed myself. And some cosmos and zinnias, and again, more of the Verbena bonariensis. And come back around to the main path. I'm standing on the outside of the herb garden in the driveway so I can show you the front edge and what I've got going on here. I've got a bunch of lavender. This is phenomenal lavender. At least these three right here are. I'm pretty sure these two also are phenomenal. I had 3 there. I lost one over the winter, but I can't remember exactly if they are. But anyway, have some lavender here, and the bees really, really love it. The butterflies love it. Some regular thyme and a nasturtium tucked in there. And then if we come over here, some more thyme, some lemon thyme. And then along the front here are portulacas. And those have self-sown. I planted some here 3 years ago. And every year they come back, they scatter their seeds all over, and I dig them out and just sort of distribute them evenly along the front here. And they're so pretty, and they can handle the heat. All right, so we'll come around, and then on the outer edge of the garden are the chives. I have the common purple chives alternating with the garlic chives in the middle. The purple chives have gone over, as you can see. I have to pull those dead stalks out. And then the garlic chives will bloom later, probably in another month, with white flowers. And it's just the bees love them, and so I let them flower. And as soon as they start to think about setting seed, I cut them all back, because then you'll have garlic everywhere. Garlic chives and regular chives everywhere if you don't, but they're pretty. Well, that was a quick tour of my herb butterfly garden that sits in the corner of our house. And next year I will take videos of it before or right after I plant it so that you can actually see the layout better. Right now and for the rest of the summer, it tends to be a bit of a chaotic mess, which actually I kind of enjoy. The rest of my gardening, especially the vegetable garden, is so ordered. Straight rows, clean aisles, planted in grid patterns to maximize efficiency, that I think I need this garden in my life. I think I need a little bit of chaos, a little bit of mess, and it's beautiful. It's colorful and full of bees and butterflies, and I just love it. But next year I will definitely film it before it gets to this so you can see how it's laid out. For now, I'm gonna go deadhead some bachelor buttons and see what else is going on in here. But thank you for joining me, and come back again and see more adventures on the farm. Thanks. Bye.